My name is Sofia, and I'm from Čačak in Western Serbia. And I'm going to take some time giving information about a project that wasn't mentioned actually at all so far in the presentations, which is Rio Tinto's attempt to open a lithium mine in Western Serbia. Also in this country, I'm completing my research and teaching at the University of Cambridge. I'll start with some context to inform you of what's going on. As Rio Tinto's attempts haven't been mentioned, I'd like to update you since as of last year what has happened. And I need to ground us in the reality of those who are daring to oppose the Jadar project, which is a story of struggle that's repeated across the globe, and we're already hearing some of that in this Q&A. For years now, the locals opposing the mine have faced pressures and intimidation, including through arrests, arbitrary interrogations, and smear campaigns in tabloid media. And this is on top of a near constant vigilance in their own homes and essentially doing extra full-time jobs, which is what it takes to challenge a giant multinational corporation. And all because they stay living in their homes in Gornje Nedeljice, which is the name of the village in the other valley. In the past year, the number of arrests over Rio Tinto protests has increased, and I want to be clear that I see Rio Tinto as complicit in the harm that is being done. As long as they continue pushing for a project that people in Jadar and in Serbia have rejected on multiple occasions and for years, this violence against those who oppose is going to continue. And my phone. Yeah, and the violence is not always overt. It's coupled with countless instances of propaganda. Rio Tinto officials have participated in and promoted a shameful documentary called Not in My Country that was premiered in the European Parliament. And at this event, even though locals were invited, they weren't allowed to speak, to reflect at all on the film that was being shown and share their views and their side of the story. The documentary also continues touring around Europe as we speak and is met with opposition wherever it goes, because there are friends and comrades around Europe and in other places who share our struggle. The experience of many friends who live locally and have participated in Rio Tinto's public meetings for years is that of manipulation, coercion, and distortion of reality. Most of us in this room would probably agree to call this an abusive relationship if we were talking about two people. And in fact, there is no such thing as dialogue between a multi-billion-dollar corporation with the backing of the police and the wider state, as well as the international legal apparatus, such as through the investment court system, and the rest of us. Such a thing does not exist. The dialogues that are meaningful and have been meaningful for the broad coalition that I'm delegated to speak on behalf of today are with communities around the country, the region, and the globe who are part of the same struggle to protect life. Whether that's in Homolje or around Novi Pazar in Serbia, Lopare and Ozren in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Northern Portugal in Barroso, the Ecuadorian Amazon, or our friends who are here from Oak Flat in Arizona. Jadar has been a site of building solidarity at all these levels for years, and the resistance to the project is grounded in the knowledge of what has happened and is happening to those who are further down this arc of violence and dispossession. There may be differences, but our struggle is not separate from any community resisting corporate grabs, primarily of their land and water, but of course the harm happens on so many different levels. And finally, what I'm happy to inform you about is the resistance to the project is only strengthening. In case you haven't been following the news, Serbia is in the midst of probably the largest and certainly the most powerful student and youth-led movement in recent history. The bad news for the company is that an entire generation of passionate and dignified young people has formed a strong opinion about Jadar and Rio Tinto. In their open letter to the European Commission, which I'm also going to add some more details about, submitted on the 1st of April, so just 2 days ago, they write, I quote, "The students unequivocally oppose the realization of the other project for multiple reasons, which they then go on to detail, and the letter is freely available online. Thousands of professors and scientists from across the country submitted their demands to the European Commission as well to reject Rio Tinto's application for Jadar to become a strategic project for the European Union on behalf of the academic community in Serbia on that same day and supported the students. And I'm just naming some of the events that happened this week to illustrate. In the language of money, which is spoken here, investment in Jadar is a terrible investment for you. My question is related to the application by Rio Tinto for Jadar to become a strategic project for the EU in an open call by the European Commission, which your officials recently confirmed in a statement to the European Western Balkans. Serbia is not part of the EU, and the European Commission is not a place where any of our voices are represented, even on paper. So how is this application consistent with your claims that the people of Serbia are going to decide about the project? And to that, I will just add a broader reflection around the entire narrative of Rio Tinto being the savior of the world for the energy and green transition. So these are more rhetorical questions. Development for whom and for what? Are we asking where the minerals and materials are going? I'm increasingly seeing how decarbonization is becoming a weapon in the hands of the corporation. And if you're sitting here thinking about sustainable investments, that this should definitely concern you. The movements in this country, the climate justice movements, are definitely catching up with this, and it's about time that everyone who's thinking about this seriously also caught up. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that overview of the situation. I'm going to make a couple of comments. Jakob may want to jump in as well. First thing I would say, just at the outset, is that nothing is going to happen with this project proceeding unless the Serbian government and the people want to do it. That's where it is. We believe there's a lot of misinformation that is out there. We are trying everything we can do to provide the perspectives that we have. We believe that there is a way to operate that site in a very environmentally friendly way. We would like to have the discussions on that. But at the end of the day, it's the Serbian people and government that will decide it. One comment I would just make is in terms of trying to get that information out there, Jakob, I think it was a 6 or 7 hour town hall with the president in the actual location, where I don't think it was, you couldn't go to the bathroom, whatever. It was just sort of straight discussion with people could come in and give their point of view, challenge Jakob directly, which I think, and that's again the engagement we would like to have to be able to do it so we can get real facts on the table. But at the end of the day, it's not going to happen if the Serbian people and the Serbian government doesn't want to do it. Jakob.
No, thank you for coming here today. Because we have explored and looked for lithium for a long time in Serbia, I've now visited your beautiful country many, many times. And I wanted to just highlight a couple of things. First of all, we don't want to portray ourselves as saviors of the planet. We are acutely aware of that extracting materials has an impact, and that's why it's a big obligation to do things to the highest ESG standards. And that's why we always want to have a strong social license, and we have struggled in Serbia. I am acutely aware of that. I believe that we have an amazing project that really comes to the highest standard, and that can create a lot of wealth to the Serbian nation. Now, people can have different views on it, and I am traveling often there, and I like to talk to people, and maybe we can talk after the AGM as well. What are the things that really concerns people around the project? Because we believe we have really, really good technical solutions. And as Dom alluded to, last time I traveled to Serbia, I spent 6 hours talking to the local population. Anyone could ask questions, and we had a really good dialogue. Sometimes people have different views, but at least if we could just have a factual discussions on what we like and what we don't like. So in that regard, I appreciate you coming here today, and I hope the dialogue can continue. Sorry, just 1 second.
You didn't actually answer my question. What about your application to the European Commission for Jadar to become a strategic project for the EU? That was my question. Please answer.
But that's not Rio Tinto. That's EU. This is between nations, and we just the ones who happen to have discovered the lithium deposit in Serbia.
No. So let me just run you through your logic. You are saying that it is up to the people in Serbia and the government to decide whether or not this mine opens. The people clearly reject this, like exhausting legal avenues, protesting the street, etc. Up until last August, when the court in Serbia decided that this was an unlawful cancellation, what we had is a situation where there was clearly a rejection of the project. You still went to the EU, to the European Commission, to apply for Jadar to be a strategic project. The vote still hasn't happened, so we're expecting in the next couple of weeks. So if it's up to the people of Serbia, why go to an institution where the Serbian people have zero representation to make Jadar a strategic project? Serbia is not part of the EU. The European Commission is not an elected body, even if Serbia were part of the EU. So the logic doesn't hold.
No, there's a completely different logic, I'm afraid to say. EU is not issuing any licenses. That's Serbia. But the reason was that the Serbian government would like to have more industry surrounding the development of lithium, such as battery production, EV productions in Serbia. And that's where Europe is very relevant. And that's why the Serbian government have engaged with the EU. And we are certainly not against that. We think that makes imminent sense. But ultimately, it's choices to be made by Serbia.
Okay, can we'll continue on with the questions just to in front with the